Rockat's latest budget keyboard embraces the trends in gaming with a 60% layout and bright RGB. While it cuts the price by utilizing membrane switches, at just $50, the Magma Mini might be the sweet spot for gamers on a really tight budget. So let's dive in and take a closer look. Hey everyone, I'm Jordan with 9 to 5 Toys, and at $50, the Magma Mini sits in an interesting place in the gaming keyboard market. The MSRP on 60% layouts from, bigger brands like HyperX and Razer are a lot more expensive, but they do occasionally go on sale, so be sure to stay locked to 9to5toys.com so you don't miss those. But if you don't want to go with a nameless brand on Amazon, you want to go with someone who's a little bit more well-known, Roccat is a brand that's still newer, I would say, to most people, but it's also growing. So getting these features in this layout at this price point might be something interesting to buyers on a budget. As a 60% keyboard, the Magma Mini is designed to be compact. There are no additional media or macro keys here, but the function key in the lower right corner unlocks all the necessary secondary functions for navigation and media control. And while it lacks the dedicated arrow keys or navigation keys that like a 65% would have, they are located in that lower right corner and are easy to actuate with the function key. So if you have to sacrifice arrow keys but still want, easy access to that functionality, this is probably one of the best layouts I've seen for accomplishing that. Underneath the keys is a large translucent plate that glows with 5 zones of AMO RGB. And while it's not per key RGB across the whole keyboard, these large bright zones really do shine with a lot of color on this membrane keyboard. I mean, here, as you can see, I have my studio light on. It's during the day, and it's still very easy to see the color here, especially as we turn it around at different angles. So if RGB is something that you're very interested in for your setup, this is going to be a great pick, especially at that price. One unfortunate omission here, I guess, on the keyboard is that on the back, the risers are only a single stage, and it seems to be like a 3 degree. It's not quite as high as the second stage on the HyperX Alloy Origin 65 that I usually use. So personally for me, I'd like to have a little bit more of an angle on there. Maybe that's not a big issue for everyone, but definitely an interesting thing here if ergonomics are important to you. The USB cable is hardwired up here, but it's on, if you're looking at the keyboard from the front, it's on the left side. So for me, for gaming, for a gaming keyboard, I do think that is the optimal position for this. Another interesting feature here of this keyboard, thanks to that membrane keyboard design and this large translucent plate on here, it's IP33 water and dust resistant. So that means it should be able to withstand, spills and different things like that if you sometimes knock things over on your desk, while you are gaming onto your keyboard. Luckily, I personally haven't had issues with that, but that's a nice little feature on here, given the more budget price point of this. Definitely an interesting feature. And as far as the overall build quality, there isn't much flex to the keyboard, which is surprising because it is a very lightweight plastic shell. And, that might be due to the small 60% form factor. If it was a full-size keyboard, would there be a little bit more flex in there? Probably, just because you can torque it a little bit more. But here on the 60% layout, it actually feels pretty rigid for the price. Even pushing down in the center, you don't get a whole lot of push in on there. So the build quality seems good. It is weighing in at 406 grams, which, it does feel pretty lightweight, especially when compared to like the Alloy Origin 60 from HyperX. That one weighs in at 780 grams. And weight doesn't necessarily equate to quality. But for some reason, I still feel like a heavier keyboard feels higher quality. So this one, feels more like a budget keyboard because it is a lighter weight, but that also is reflected in the price point as well. So moving on to the switches, at its core, it is a membrane keyboard, so it won't have the same sound and feel as a keyboard with mechanical switches. But, that's something that Roccat is doing here to keep the price down and keep it more affordable. They have a tactile feel with a bump at the actuation point and a responsive rebound. And while it doesn't have that same sound and feel as like the Aqua switches on the Alloy Origin 65 that I made, I was surprised by how quickly I got used to the membrane switches of the Magma Mini. There aren't any figures for the actuation force or distance, but it does feel similar to those Aqua switches from HyperX, which have an actuation force of 45 grams. The bump is more tactile and more noticeable than the Aqua switches, but the actuation distance feels very similar. The whole movement also feels a bit scratchier on the Magma Mini than those HyperX Aqua switches. And here we do a sound test so you can hear how it sounds compared to mechanical switches. I'll be using the HyperX Alloy Origins 65 with Aqua tactile switches. So in use, how does this all come together for a gaming experience? I was surprised by how much I enjoyed it, I guess. Just directly comparing the HyperX and this, I definitely prefer the feel and the sound of the Alloy Origin 65. But when it came to actually gaming, I didn't have any issues using this keyboard. I found it quite comfortable while playing Battlefield 2042. It was responsive and easy to use. I never felt like it was lacking in any performance for playing fast-paced FPS games, but take that with a grain of salt because I'm also not a professional player. And this is just personal preference, but I still prefer a 65% layout keyboard because it is just one row bigger, one row wider over here, but you get all those navigation keys, and unlike the Alloy Origins, you get all of the arrow keys here in the bottom right. But chances are, if you're watching this video, then you're interested in a 60% keyboard. And overall, for those who, don't need those arrow keys down here, the Roccat Magma Mini is a solid entry-level keyboard. If you're looking for something on a very tight budget, but you still want it to look the part, I do think you'll be happy with this choice. Personally, I prefer mechanical switches, but at the same time, this will definitely get you by if you are on a tight budget. My personal recommendation, if you need something right now, then sure, go ahead and get this. But if you can wait, try to find a good deal on the Alloy Origin 60 or the Alloy Origin 65. Once again, stay locked to 9to5toys.com as we're, featuring all the best deals over there. All right, and that's gonna do it for our review of the Roccat Magma Mini. Let us know what you think about it down in the comments below. And if you're looking for some other videos to watch, I will link to my review of the HyperX Alloy Origin 65, as well as our most recent video. And thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up so others can find it easier, and consider subscribing. This is Jordan with 9to5 Toys.